Welcome to the first video in my Inktober series of 2024. Now let's get straight into it, and day one is backpack. And what came to mind for this prompt was the backpacker murders that happened here in New South Wales, Australia between 1989 and 1992. The backpacker murderer was a man named Ivan Milat who abducted, assaulted, robbed and murdered 2 men and 5 women between the ages of 19 and 22 that were predominantly foreign people who were over here backpacking around Australia. Once he had murdered the people, he would dump their bodies in the Belangolo State Forest. He apparently has done more offences, but this was only speculation. Some people exercising in the forest found one of the bodies that was partly concealed, and they called the cops. Then they found another body 30 metres away in 1992. Then in 1993, a man looking for firewood found the remains of another person in the same forest. Police were called again and they found 5 more bodies spread across October and November, all with either gunshot wounds, stab wounds to the spine to render the victim paralysed, which ended up being portrayed in a very popular scary horror movie, Wolf Creek, that was inspired by serial killer Ivan Milat. One victim's head was even decapitated and never found. All victims had signs of being tortured before dying. Ivan's undoing was an English tourist that escaped Ivan's abduction and positively identified Ivan to be the man who shot at him as he escaped. This is an interesting and very high-profile serial killer case here in Australia, and it's very interesting to read if you are interested, as the information I mentioned about this in this video doesn't even compare to the detailed story on all of what actually really happened. And I also recommend watching Wolf Creek, as it is a seriously chilling horror movie. Now, the idea I got for this prompt backpack was of this killer backpack that is basically possessed this young boy, and he has to feed this backpack people's body parts because it craves these body parts, and he's even sacrificed one of his hands to put in this backpack. So this evil backpack has got control of this guy, and this guy is also sacrificing himself, and he's out there seeking other people to sacrifice to this evil backpack. I don't mind this illustration, as I love the look on the guy's face just looking around for more people to sacrifice to this to this backpack. Imagine having a backpack that looked like this, that had some sort of face on it, that was just like walking around with you and telling you to either sacrifice, people to feed it or else. That's what this is all about. Now, I will let you watch the rest of this drawing unfold, and I will be back in a few moments for the second prompt in this video. Day 2 is discover, and what came to mind when thinking about this prompt, discover, was people climbing into caves and tight spaces that no one should ever go into as far as I'm concerned, and this illustration I drew represents someone actually discovering how to get out of a cage or space that they have been trapped in. Have you heard about the Nutty Putty Cave incident? It's a cave system in Utah that has narrow pathways and people just love going in there for some reason. But for one man, it became his tomb. On the 24th of November 2009, a man named John Edward Jones got stuck in the cave upside down for roughly 28 hours while rescue teams tried to find ways to get him out. That failed, so unfortunately John died from cardiac arrest for being upside down for a long period of time. John's body was in a space of 25 centimeters by 46 centimeters wide and was 120 meters from the entrance of the cave. Just thinking about this makes me very, very anxious. The cave was closed with concrete after John died, sealing his body in there as it was too dangerous to retrieve him, and explosives were detonated to cut off the section where John's body lies. The 2016 movie called The Last Descent was about the tragic incident. Now, the illustration that I did for this particular prompt was of some sort of creature basically busting out of a cave. He'd clawed his way through a wall, hence why there is blood all over his fingers and coming out of, his face and all that, because it's just been so traumatic on this particular monster. And he finally busted through the wall and is breathing fresh air, and he basically discovered his way out. And that's basically all this illustration is. I personally think anyone who goes into a cave is batshit crazy, but you're even more batshit crazy if you decide to tackle these extremely small, confined spaces. Now, I just have instant panic attacks just thinking about being trapped in these spaces and not being able to get out quickly, or even having a fear that whatever space that I'm in is going to collapse down on top of me. So I just wouldn't even attempt to go into something like that, knowing how I feel about it. But hey, that's why those sort of things are not for the faint-hearted. So I will let you watch what's left of me drawing this particular illustration, and I will be back in a moment for the third day prompt and the final illustration in this video today. And day 3 is boots, and the first thing that came to mind when thinking of boots was boots that have killed people, which then led me down a rabbit hole of the cement boots. The cement boots are boots that gangs or the mafia members pour onto victims' feet to weigh them down when disposing of their bodies in large bodies of water. Buckets are filled with concrete, and then the victim is either alive or dead when their feet are placed into the buckets, and then if they're alive, they've got to endure the setting process. This is apparently a big thing in fiction only and portrayed in Hollywood movies, but there actually has been a real-life case of this happening. In 2016, a 28-year-old man named Peter Martinez, who was part of a Brooklyn gang, had washed up near Manhattan Beach with his head wrapped in duct tape and with concrete boots on from the shin to his feet on both legs. He ended up floating to the beach as the concrete was not set properly and air ended up getting into the concrete, making them buoyant like a pair of floaties would that you see on kids' arms to keep them from drowning. This is the only reported case of feet and legs encased in concrete, as it's something of a legend. The other ways people have been killed with concrete in a similar manner is concrete blocks that have been tied around the victim's legs to weigh them down, but the legs and the feet are not encased in the concrete themselves. Now, the illustration that I did for this prompt today was the vision of having like these two legs that have been cut off at the knees, the knee area, and the legs are still in the boots. And one of the boots has actually stepped on a little creature and speared it through its guts and popped it, and there's blood splattered everywhere. You could take this in a few routes. You could say that this creature was killed first, and then the punishment for this person with the boots killing this creature was they just cut the legs off, and maybe they tied some concrete blocks to the person and dropped them down into the ocean. Let your imagination run wild with that one. But anyway, that is the 3 prompts done for this video today. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. Dislike it, I couldn't care less what you do, because any interaction that you give me goes towards the algorithm for other people to find me. And hopefully I'll see you in the next Inktober video for the next 3 prompts that will be done in a couple of days. Bye.
Thank you.